In HBO's Inside the Episode featurette, David Benioff talks about how the start of this last season is going to spend a lot of time looking back. This makes sense. Writers like symmetry, and since this is the last season, we're probably going to spend a lot of time going full circle. Now, episode 1 has a lot of callbacks to season 1, especially the show's premiere. So, let's get started. Season 8, episode 1 begins with a small boy running through Winterfell, looking for a way to watch the procession of soldiers who mark the arrival of Queen Daenerys Targaryen and the former King of the North, Jon Snow. Like Arya, who struggles in episode 1 to move past large adults to find her spot on an empty wagon, the nameless boy attempts to push past the grown-ups but is blocked. Arya notices him, and as we are told by Benioff, she lets him through because she remembers how she felt at his age, when she was the one trying to catch a glimpse of the King and Queen's arrival. The boy runs through the gaps in the crowd and we see him climb a tree, which mirrors the start of Season 1, Episode 1 when Bran climbs onto the roofs of Winterfell, searching for his own view. Little does he know that almost a decade later he won't need to climb to get a view because he'll be the three-eyed raven and have 1,000 eyes and one. As Arya watches the procession, she waits almost impatiently, trying to catch a glimpse of her brother. This arrival has some similarities to the first arrival. The first party included the Queen, her relative she's sleeping with, as well as the Hound. Sound familiar? Well, the current party includes a Queen, her relative she's sleeping with, although in her defense she doesn't know this, and the Hound. There is one small difference. In the show's premiere, the Hound has his wolf-shaped helmet on. In this season premiere, the Hound doesn't wear a helmet, maybe symbolizing that he is now a more open and vulnerable character, or that the actor is more famous and people want to see his face. The last important figures we see ride in are Baratheons. In the first arrival, a king, Robert Baratheon. In the second, his bastard son, Gendry Storm. Jon and Bran's first and last scene together mirror each other too. When Jon sees Bran for the first time, he kisses him on the forehead. This calls back to when he last saw Bran, who was in a coma at the time, after being pushed out of a window by Jaime at the end of the first ever episode. In that last meeting, Jon kisses Bran on the forehead before saying his goodbyes and leaving Winterfell for the wall. Jon approaches a line of Starks, except there are only two Starks there to greet him, Sansa and Bran, since Ned, Catelyn, Rickon, and Robb are dead. Just like Catelyn, Jon asks where Arya is.
Where's Arya?
Sansa, where's your sister?
I wonder if this is the last time we'll hear that question asked this season. Maybe we'll hear it again once the Battle of Winterfell begins. When Danny meets Sansa, she compliments her on her beauty.
The North is as beautiful as your brother claimed. As are you.
Just as King Robert and Queen Cersei complimented her when they first meet in the series premiere.
Aye, you're a pretty one.
Hello, little dove. But you are a beauty.
But Sansa's been through a lot since then. She's wiser now and less easily charmed by pretty words.
Sometimes when I'm trying to understand a person's motives, I play a little game. I assume the worst.
Jon and Arya meet in the Godswood and compare swords. This references episode 2 of season 1, which was the last time Jon sees Arya before taking the black. In that scene, Jon places his hand on Arya's neck affectionately and leans in to deliver a message. Then Arya leaps up and hugs him. The meeting in season 8 mirrors this scene almost shot for shot. Arya leaps up to hug Jon, then Jon places his hand on Arya's shoulder and leans in to talk to her. People have been wondering why Arya looks over at Jon's hand on her shoulder. Well, it's nostalgia. During those years wandering the world alone, she probably thought a lot of the last time she saw her favourite brother. And this was probably one of Jon's mannerisms. Also worth noting is the topic of conversation. Arya mentions Sansa mockingly.
Sansa can keep her sewing needles. I've got a needle of my own.
Arya's position on Sansa has changed though. Arya now respects her sister and values her specific set of skills, namely being really clever and conniving.
Sansa thinks she's smarter than everyone.
She's the smartest person I've ever met.
Ned visits Gendry in episode 4 of season 1, who is busy smithing. He shows Ned a helmet he forged for himself. Fine work, Ned says. Whereas in this episode, it's Arya who visits Gendry, finding him forging weapons for the war ahead. Like her father, Arya compliments his skills as a smith, before making a request of her own for this mysterious-looking weapon. In the series premiere, Daenerys is pretty powerless. Illyrio and her brother Viserys arrange for Danny to be married to Khal Drogo, and she has no choice in the matter. Contrast this against Varys, Sir Davos and Tyrion discussing a potential marriage between Jon and Danny.
They do make a handsome couple.
You overestimate our influence. Jon and Daenerys don't want to listen to lonely old men.
Not only would this be a good political marriage to consolidate power, but also a marriage based on love and mutual respect. But unlike the first episode where Danny has no choice in the matter, this time she does. Danny is gifted a white horse by Drogo on her wedding day. She rides away alone with Khal Drogo to a body of water at the edge of the desert, where they proceed to consummate their marriage, although it doesn't seem like Danny is really into it. In the Season 8 premiere, Danny doesn't gift Jon Rhaegar, but just encourages him to try and ride the dragon. Since Danny probably doesn't know a lot about dragons, she might not know that dragons only bond with one rider, allowing only that rider to mount them until the rider dies. At least according to the books, making this innocent offer to ride her dragon an unintended gift. The scene that follows is in lots of ways really different to the scene in that episode, but in some ways quite similar. Instead of two lovers mounting horses, Jon mounts Rhaegar and Danny mounts Drogon. They fly away together, land near a body of water, and proceed to kiss, or more, who knows. Maybe this reference foreshadows an upcoming wedding between Danny and Jon, the second reference to a wedding in this episode. When we meet Tyrion in episode 1, he's in a whorehouse, surrounded by women. When we see Bronn again in the season premiere, he is in a whorehouse, surrounded by women. This imagery draws a symbolic parallel between the two characters, reminding us that they're a lot alike. By the Queen's command, Qyburn hands Bronn Joffrey's crossbow, the very same crossbow Tyrion used to kill Tywin Lannister. Qyburn asks Bronn to assassinate Jaime and Tyrion, Cersei's two traitor brothers. I really don't buy that Bronn is going to kill either brother. They're his mates. He risked his own life to save Jaime in battle and has saved Tyrion multiple times. This might just be the show's way of getting Bronn to where the action is so he can actually shoot scenes with other people, since most of the scenes in King's Landing involve Cersei, and the actor who plays Cersei and the actor who plays Bronn refuse to work together. Sam finds Jon in the crypts. Sam tells him that Danny executed his brother and father. Jon reminds Sam that he's executed men who have disobeyed him too. A reference to the Night's Watch members he's executed, like Janos Slynt or the traitor Alliser Thorne and Ollie, to name a few. Also, the very first episode shows Ned swinging his sword executing a Night's Watch deserter. As a side note, there is a lot of hypocrisy around Danny's actions. People in and outside of the show tend to be kind of hard on her for doing things that other show favourites like Ned, Stannis or Jon have done. Both episodes take us to the crypts of Winterfell. Robert and Ned visit the crypts and discuss Lyanna Stark. Robert hints at killing Danny and her brother Viserys.
It's done, Your Grace. Targaryens are gone. Not all of them.
So it's fitting that in this first episode we should revisit the crypts again, and have this be the place where Jon discovers his true parentage, by the statue of his mother and the man who raised him, Ned Stark. Young Ned Umber is found dead, killed by the Night King, and impaled and pinned to a wall in the middle of a gory display of human limbs, arranged in the familiar spiral pattern we now associate with the Night King and the Children of the Forest. In the show's premiere, the Night's Watch deserter Will finds a similar display of human limbs arranged in a circle, by the corpse of a child who has been impaled. This circular symbol looks a lot like Khal Drogo's funeral pyre, which we see at the end of Season 1. So Season 1 starts with blood and death, but ends in fire and resurrection.
If the horses last, we'll get there before the dead. We just have to hope the Night King doesn't come first.
The Season 8 premiere ends in fire and blood, as well as death and resurrection. If you recall, fire and blood are the Targaryen house words. If these symbols are messages, who are they messages for? Is this arrangement a magic ritual to raise the dead? Or the way the White Walkers honor their roots? According to Elastic, who make the Game of Thrones opening credits, spirals are an important and heavily featured motif in the intro as well as the show. Now, there's a lot of room for speculation here, and to be honest with you, my mind is exploding with theories that are too big and tangenty for this one video. So I'll be making a video specifically about the symbols and what they mean. Subscribe below if you want to be alerted when the video drops. Now the final parallel. The first season premiere and this season premiere both end with Bran and Jaime, taking us full circle. Bran waits in the Winterfell courtyard all night for someone who he refers to as an old friend. He could have just gone to bed and come back in the morning when Jaime arrived like a normal person, but Bran being Bran chooses to sit out in the cold all night staring into empty space instead. When Jaime enters Winterfell, he finds Bran waiting. Jaime is shocked. 1, because Bran is creepy, but 2, because he attempted to kill Bran at the end of the first ever episode, after Bran catches him banging his sister. But the murder attempt fails, leaving Bran in a coma. Jaime undoubtedly believed, like everyone else in Westeros, that Bran was dead. So seeing him now must be like seeing a ghost. Alright, I'll keep it short. If you like the video, then like the video. And if you want more videos like this, then subscribe. This is Hungry Ghost from Night Owl Cinema. Good night, and don't let the ice spiders bite.